All right, back here. Day 2 of Forrester B2B Summit. We're live here on the marketplace floor. Thanks again to Forrester for making this possible. We did 10 interviews, Helen, yesterday. 10 episodes of Sales Pipeline Radio. We got another 8-ish today. So it's just a content machine over here sitting in the corner. But yeah, excited to be here. And really, it's been fun to talk to analysts. It's been fun to talk to some of the practitioners walking around that are in the pit trying to get this work done. Great to talk to a number of ROI award winners, and excited to have Helen Baptist here. Hell, I don't even know how to introduce you. Like, normally I've got like someone's title. Like, you're just a woman of the people. You're a multi-exit, multi-time COO, running all of the things. You're a force.
Thanks, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Honestly, I think more like a friend and a brother than just somebody who's in the network. And it's a privilege to be on podcast or radio with you, whatever we're calling this.
Radio. I don't think I've told you this, but I've mentioned it before. I was in the radio broadcasting club in high school. And we're not on video, but you should see the look I just got from Helen. It was one of those.
A voice for radio.
It was one of those, you should not say that out loud. It is a voice for radio. There were 5 of us, and we would, every once in a while, there was a sponsor teacher who was super into it. And every once in a while, we'd get together at lunch and like just practice recording commercial reads into tape recorders. That's what we did.
So I wanted to be, little known fact, a sports broadcaster.
Yeah.
I have a physical education degree from McMaster University, and I managed the rugby team, and I wrote all the articles.
Yeah.
For the school newspaper, and then I wanted to be one, but there weren't that many back in the day.
Yeah.
Now I think about some of the, Sarah Walsh and Erin Andrews and the women that are in sports broadcasting. But this is divergent, and I feel like I'm doing a Brent Adamson Friday call with you.
That's what we do. I told you right before, I had 2 CMOs on yesterday, and we were talking about like AI integration or some bullshit like that. And then we finally realized that we all had teenage boys, and then it got really interesting, right? So that's where, to your point, that's where like getting together in person, and even as technology creeps into the go-to-market motions, and eventually maybe robots sell to robots, we're still going to exist in this world. And our lizard brains want to make connection with each other. And those connections are not usually over sales integration. It's usually over common stuff. It's bacon. It's bacon.
Yeah, Matt actually sent me a package of his homemade bacon one time. And it arrived a day when I wasn't there. And the dry ice was kind of getting done. Yeah. But the bacon was still delicious. But thank you.
Yeah. No, the nice thing about bacon is if you send it frozen, if you send it in the right package, you can send it across the country. And if you're there, it's going to come and it's still going to be cold.
Frozen.
Maybe not quite frozen. Was it still frozen?
It was still frozen.
Oh, see, that's good.
So thank you.
Yeah, there's a family ranch in California that we sometimes order from.
Five Marys.
5 Marys, that's right. And they will send it all in this like pre-packaged thing with all the dry ice, and it's fantastic. It's like a lot more expensive than buying it from the supermarket, but you know where it's coming from.
Yeah, you know where the meat's coming from.
You know where it's coming from. You know that they put a lot of care into it. You know it's a small family business doing it.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said.
I think the relationship to this conversation is about small family business, and you know where things are coming from. In that the CMO and the marketing team is usually a small family business inside a large organization. And that's a stretch. I get it. But
a little bit, but let's talk about the analogy I think is interesting there is the relationships, right?
Yeah.
The relationship you have where you have a foundation of trust. If you're going to go and because none of us run businesses or are part of businesses that are easy and it's always smooth sailing. It's always going to be hard or get hard. But the people you do that with, the people you can have those arguments with, if you have a strong foundation of trust, you can get through those moments and figure it out. And I don't know, man, in my career, I think about the places that haven't always been the easiest to work, but the places where I have gotten the most value, and it's because we cared about each other and we were there for each other.
Yeah, I think that the business, especially in private equity backed or VC backed, and maybe even more so in public, I don't know, but where there are other people's money on the table.
Yeah.
The human component of work is, and it's been hard, right, for the last 5 years of remote and all that other stuff. But I think through the power of things like the CMO Coffee Talk from 6 Cents and the Empowered CMO, or CXO as they're calling it this year, there is a network of people that you can have life stories with, right? So I lost my mom. I talked to you about it. I've talked to a bunch of other people. There's some people who've been through cancer and life-changing situations. And then there's these emerging CMOs who are in their first CMO role where, you're sitting at the table and you're talking. It just came from a breakfast, actually, an Empowered CMO breakfast, and talking about how do you make sure you get the right compensation? And how do you present yourself to the board and make sure that you're not the arts and crafts department? And the way that I've always thought about it in that role of being either the chief strategy officer or the chief market officer or the chief operating officer, you look at my titles, those are all the same kind of role, is that I think about the CEO has one job if you're in private equity or VC backed, is he or they are trying to sell the company for the shareholders to get their money. So I always think about 3 pipelines, 3 funnels, whichever way you want to talk about it. The first is obviously the marketing funnel. Am I driving enough through the funnel? Do I have enough materials and content to enable the sellers? Look, I don't play the attribution game. I'll say that. I've never done attribution. What I look at is, do I have enough velocity and volume in the pipeline to hit our numbers, whatever the goal is? And can I accelerate the conversion rates, improve those over a trailing 5-quarter thing? Traditional kind of marketing stuff. The second funnel obviously is the pipeline and the conversion through that, and understanding where you're getting stuck and having very clear entry and exit criteria. But the one that we don't talk about a lot is the investor funnel. And whether that's investor for fundraising or an exit or a strategic acquisition. And yet there's the same plays are in play. Like how do you warm those people up to buy and believe whatever you're selling? The selling the company, right? Selling the product vision, the unique IP that you might have or otherwise. So as you're an emerging CMO, if you're listening to this, take a look. What story do you need to tell about the market to the people that might want to buy from you? What competitive intrusion is happening? Use your data analytics tools or voice recordings to mine for competitive intrusions. Think about things like, how do you get your team to realize that you need to warm up those investors? Is it because you're going to play a strategic partnership in quotations, or they're in your ecosystem and therefore you might want to steal some of their customers or partner with their customers? And I think about in the MarTech industry particularly, which is where I spent some time.
Yeah, I think I could make the case that the chief market officer's primary role is product market fit. And not just like defining that in the market, but also deciding what should be in market and making sure that there is a market for what you're building. And the way I've sort of described that is say, look, if you ask a sales team, what do you need from marketing? Like they're probably going to say leads, right? But leads is simply a manifestation of a market that craves what you're selling. And so you don't need to create leads if the market is beating down your door. And there's never going to be a build it and they will come. But if you nail product market fit, then you're going to have a lot easier time driving and building pipeline because you're in the right place at the right time.
I think the effort that you put into positioning, messaging, ICP development, and your campaign strategies underneath that is probably one of the most underrated value that the CMO brings to the table. And it has to be infused with the voice of the customer, the voice of the competitors, et cetera. So, you know, I look at, there's no chief financing officer. There's no chief executiving officer. Take the verb out of the title and own the market. And market is about selling product, and you have to have fit. So to your point, product market fit, you have to help drive the product roadmap based on the changes in the marketplace or competitors or whatever, what your customers are saying to you they need. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It is about representing the product and the market fit.
And you just came from the Empowered Breakfast. I give a lot of credit to Latney for the work she's done to really evangelize that chief market officer role. And it's not just about the title, it's about what that role represents and what that role needs to and should own. And we're sitting here in the midst of what I think might be sort of a critical moment for the chief market or marketing officer role. A lot of talk about, like, is that really someone that should be at the C-suite? Should a lot more heads of marketing are reporting to CROs? A lot more companies are thinking about marketing as a support function for the go-to-market teams. I believe that is short selling the opportunity. I think that's leaving a lot on the table. I think that's thinking about the near-term needs of the business while sacrificing the long-term value and health of the business. Curious what you think about it.
I 100% agree. I think that the chief market officer has to balance pipeline generation and brand awareness. And if you put that position underneath a revenue officer, you don't have the latitude and the permission and the grace to focus on brand. You are always focused on demand and pipe. And I think that that is very short-sighted because accounts aren't always in market. And if you don't have brand awareness, you can't build pipe. Right? I think Carrie Cunningham from Sixth Sense quote, and we're talking about Sixth Sense a lot, but Sixth Sense has done some research that only 2 or 3% of accounts are in purchase mode. They are doing their homework. 90% of the journey is done before. They have 4 or 5 vendors in mind before they even contact the company. And how do they know about you? That is a brand awareness factor. Where does brand manifest itself? In the marketing that you do, in the communities that you're in the relationships that you have. And so the chief market officer also has to be somewhat of an evangelist, in my mind, for that brand. Again, talking about how it fits the needs of the market. And then that builds in the extra pipeline factor.
You mentioned earlier prioritizing velocity. I don't think a lot of people know what that means or how it's defined or how even operationalized. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. One of the key metrics that I always look at is obviously everybody looks at conversion rates through those different funnels, whether it's the marketing funnel or the sales pipeline.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to improve those conversion rates to the end of CAGR. CAGR has 2 levers to pull on. Velocity, which is the speed by which those things move through the different stages, and the conversion rates. And if you can focus on both rather than just one, which is the conversion rates, you actually have a compounding factor, and your net present value, or NPV, can accelerate even further and faster. So it's about making sure that you are monitoring both and that you're identifying the factors and attributes that increase that velocity as well.
There's concept like velocity, NPV, the rule of 40. These things are foreign to a lot of marketers and even marketing leaders. But this is the language of how a lot of those growth businesses talk. And if you want credibility for your chief market officer role or just marketing in general, we have our own language of MQLs, SQLs, ABM. It'd be better for us to speak the language of the CFO and the board.
That's right.
To be taken more seriously.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've exited 4 times and the CEO plays a critical role in that. But the best partnership that I ever have usually is with the CFO.
Yeah.
Because that is the person who has to report the financials. And what we do is a factor of financials.
Yep.
I think the other part of it is I think about it from a consumer perspective. And, when you think about where people make their money in financial services, like credit cards, it's on compound interest. It's on net present value. It's on, even in your retirement funds, if you want to put it in a different light, a better light, is what is the run rate in the market and how do you play the game? Where do you take more risk? Where do you not take risk based on your age of the company and yourself? I'm at the end of my career and my husband and I are evaluating our retirement fund, and I have a high risk account and he's older than me and he's retired, and he has a low risk account because he wants the longevity of that money to stay stable, especially in today's macroeconomics world, right? And so that mindset is how I play in the CMO role, is where is the risk and the reward going to come from?
That's right.
And how do I optimize and maximize the money that I have in a marketing budget or in a sales budget or whatever it is, to the end of what is the board asking for? Are we a late stage in their funding? Are we early stage in their funding? Are they a new private equity or VC fund because they need a win, right? So understanding the dynamics of who your owners are, what their objective is, what the CEO's role in that is, whether that is a builder or an operator or whether that is a run the business kind of person. Those are all things that I look at when I'm taking roles or I'm looking at companies.
Why do you prioritize coming to an event like this? I mean, it's a hassle to travel. We all get comfortable working from our home offices these days. It's so easy to do things through Zoom. I mean, all the keynotes and things that are happening in the other room, we can all watch those on YouTube later. Yeah. Why is it important still to come here in person?
Well, first off, there are new entries into the marketplace from a vendor perspective. So I'm always looking at who those are and who's investing in their marketing and what kind of marketing they're doing. So I'm trying to steal some potential best practices or not. Avoid the dumpster fires that we talk about a lot.
That's right.
I also come to reaffirm my knowledge and my skill set from basically the ARs, obviously the analysts. I also get some confidence from myself in terms of I'm doing the right things or I'm actually ahead of some of the things that they're talking about. And more importantly, I think for me, it's about the relationships, right? So I can walk around, it's like old home week. And I see a lot of people, and I've seen clients, I've seen prospects, I've seen former employees, I've seen some of the analysts I've worked with. And for me, it's about the community of B2B marketers.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I think there's conversations you can have efficiently, air quotes, from your home office, from Zoom, from digital channels. But there's a depth of relationship that happens in person that is irreplaceable elsewhere. Like you mentioned, getting to know people on a personal level, like you and I have talked about sick and dying parents.
That's right.
Latney and I met at a conference, and within 5 minutes, we were talking about our neurodiverse children, right? And I can almost guarantee that connection helped spark the relationship we had, which turned into a business relationship. And then here we are 5 years later doing CMO Coffee Talk together. That wouldn't have happened if we weren't together at a conference in Toronto.
That's right. And I think one of the things my mom said is, you will always be authentically Helen.
Yep.
And I think the ability to be authentic in person adds just this exponential multiplier of being able to be vulnerable or being human when you are on camera.
Yeah.
And so I'm forever grateful for going through the 5-year journey with you all at CMO Coffee Talks. I was on the first one, which was March 20th.
You were.
2019.
Yeah.
It was the first week of shutdown in the United States and Canada.
That's right.
And that was a tumultuous time in life, right? We didn't know, was it the end of the world? And then a few weeks later was George Floyd. And we were managing people's lives. We had a lot of people looking to us to make informed decisions, and yet we weren't any more informed than they were.
Right.
And so this community has really allowed me to accelerate personally, professionally, emotionally, psychologically. There is a psychological safety within this group as well, is what I want to say.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that is something that I'm very proud of, to have a place where people lean in with each other, but also feel like they can sort of be themselves.
Yeah.
Admit to all of our fallibility. Do you remember we did a session on imposter syndrome? We had an author come and talk who's written a book about it. And at one point in the session, we said, raise your hand if you have felt like or feel like you have imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And I think 93% of people raised their hand. And the other 7% were not paying attention. They must have been multitasking.
Riding their bikes or
right,
walking.
exactly, which is totally fine. It's totally fine. But like I had people call me for both sessions afterward. Multiple people said, I thought it was just me.
No.
And these are heads of marketing. These are very successful senior people who have clearly been very successful in their career. And yet, A, they have imposter syndrome, and B, they thought they were the only ones with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, I've been in the business for too long. I have imposter syndrome. I'm changing jobs again, and that interview process and the rejection. But I had this conversation with a woman this morning, actually, at the Empowered CMO breakfast. And I try to diverge from what is my job to balancing how do I make other people grow and feel better, right? When things are shitty at work, sometimes the wins that other people are having allows me the grace to feel good every now and then, right? That I've done something right. By promoting people, giving them opportunities to stretch, try new things. It's fun to see people grow in their career or want to work with you again.
Yeah. There's a book I think we talked about before called From Strength to Strength, and it talks about moving from the most productive times in your lives, which usually is like late 20s, early 30s, into later stages of your life. And I'm not at the end of my career yet, but I'm closing in on 50, and I know that I got a lot of time to go. But the book talks about going from dynamic intelligence, meaning you are doing and building things, to crystallized intelligence, when all of your experience and learnings becomes wisdom. Yeah. Something you could not have had earlier in your career. Something that was frustrating to me early in my career because I just wanted to move faster, but you literally need the time to get to the at-bats. And so even though you cannot produce what you could in your earlier days, that knowledge is priceless.
Yeah.
And so to be able to think of that as like, this is now part of my gift back to others. So the question, I guess, this is the first time I've heard you say you're towards the end of your career. I cannot imagine you retiring, first of all. I don't understand that. But as someone who's like thinking about that, what advice do you have for others that are starting to come in here, for others that aren't at that stage and really haven't thought about it and have no idea how to even think about it?
Yeah.
What would be your advice to them?
So it's contextual. I'll say this. My mother never graduated high school. She had dyslexia, and yet she was one of the smartest women in the world and one of the kindest.
Yeah.
She passed away a year and a half ago, and there were 300 people at her wake.
Yeah.
Why? Because she gave back to people in ways that they didn't even realize.
Yeah.
And so if you are starting out your career, if you are climbing, think about what legacy you want to leave. And how do you start laying those stones that become the path for others to trail on? My personal one, and I've been working on it for 15 years, is resume making moments. How do I give people the opportunity, and how do I tell them that they've actually had the resume making moment? Because many people don't recognize it. That's the
right.
other part, right?
That's right.
Is how do I give people the opportunity? How do I stretch them? How do I tap into their passion?
Yeah.
To either guide them in the role they're in or find them another new role
Right.
where they can be highly successful.
Right.
And yet I often sit down and I say to people, you just had a resume making moment. And I did this recently.
Yeah.
And the person I was talking to was like, what do you mean? And I said, you have just created something that didn't exist here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so as you are growing up in your career, is think about what your legacy might be. How will people talk about you at your funeral? Because this is a job and nobody's going to talk about how good you were at your job. What you're going to talk about is how were you as a human?
I think about that at work, and I increasingly think about that at home. My kids are 15, 14, and 11, and I distinctly remember all of them being born, and yet now my daughter is driving and thinking about college. And I was telling someone earlier today, like, I travel for work a lot. I'm not there every day, but I have never missed one of my son's wrestling meets. My daughter and I have a tradition of going to the Nutcracker every year, and this year we're going to go see Romeo and Juliet, Pacific Northwest Ballet. And I wanted to see it, and I wasn't sure if she'd want to, but she's like, yeah, we're going.
Yeah.
And it's those moments, last night she was having a tough time on stuff. So we just called and talked for 40 minutes through some things. And even though I'm not there, just being there and being present and having those moments, life is a long time.
Yes.
And you can't be present all the time, but you can create those connections. You can create those moments. You can prioritize those moments.
That's right.
And it costs you nothing.
It's interesting. My son is 26 and I went to a wedding and he was the best man in the wedding. And I've never seen him speak publicly.
Yeah.
Except for high school, right? You don't see it in college, doing presentations. He has a full-time job. I don't see him do his job.
Yeah.
And yet people came up to me afterwards and said, great speech, but he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And that's the legacy that I have in him.
Yeah.
I want that for people who I know and work with.
It is such a simple answer, but I think about what's going to make for a successful kid. And I think about that for all of our kids, and I worry about all of them. But I think I want them to launch with good values, with good heads on their shoulders. I want people to think of them as good people.
Yeah.
Right? Like you think about like people you hire. Like you can hire people that are technically proficient at their job, but are assholes.
Yeah.
And so you can hire people that are good value. I want values fit culture ads. And I want those people where that high degree of trust exists. Yeah. What we're doing here is not rocket science, right? Like it's getting increasingly more difficult, but this literally is not rocket science. This is a teachable thing. I'd rather find people that are the right foundation.
Yeah.
And build a business based on that, especially as a services business.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the values that you have in your home life and what other values people have as well. And look, I grew up all around the world. Mm-hmm. My parents were in the mining business. I've lived in Indonesia. I went to boarding school in Singapore.
Yeah.
I've traveled around the world probably 10 times. The ability to assimilate into a new environment.
Yeah.
I got that from traveling and moving around the world. I was the blonde girl in an Indonesian village. Mm-hmm. I was the outcast.
Yeah.
And so my tolerance for other peoples and perspectives is different.
Yep.
And so I think, what values do you have? How can you bring other people's values to your value pool? How do you align? How do you interview for those? That's part of being a good CMO as well, right? Is interviewing. So anyway, I diverge.
Oh, I love it. Helen, thank you for doing this. My life is better from getting to know you in the last 5+ years. I just really appreciate your insights. You've inspired me and challenged me, and just I'm so proud to consider you a friend. So thank you.
Yeah, Matt, we've had some tough conversations in the last couple of months and so on and so forth. But I think the ability to have those conversations is because we are very good friends and we've invested in each other. And so keep investing. Yeah. I'm grateful for seeing you at 5:00 your time every Friday morning on CMO Coffee Talk. If you're not part of CMO Coffee Talk and you are CMO or head of marketing, reach out to Matt or
We'd
Latin.
Love to have you. Absolutely.
The value in those relationships is impossible to measure, but truly there. But thank you, Matt, for having me on your podcast. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for making your time, and enjoy the rest of the day.